Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Camellias sasanquas and one Camellia japonica, but mostly Camellias sasanquas, and a good portion of them are from the Southern Living Plant Collection. Some of them are from the October Magic series, and then some are not. But beautiful, beautiful plants. If you don't know much about Camellias, Camellias typically like to part shade. They're hardy in zones 7 to 9. They like acid soils, so most of the folks in the southeast United States don't have a problem growing these at all. We mound them up a little bit when we plant them. Overall, they're pretty easy plants. Once they're established, they're super drought tolerant. I mean, some of the best camellias I ever see, I say this all the time, are on old abandoned farmhouses and things where they really have not been tended to at all. They can be pruned in the early spring. The Camellias sasanquas can. They bloom in the fall. The Camellia japonicas typically bloom in the late winter, early spring, and they can also be tip pruned after that if you need to. This early wonder camellia that I'm going to talk about actually blooms much earlier than that. And they can be fertilized with some fertilizer for acid-loving plants at the same time in the late winter. And that's about it. These are going to offer you evergreen, nice, deep, dark green, evergreen growth. Typically, the new growth on camellias is some bronze color or red color, that kind of thing. So even the new growth looks good. They are susceptible to many insect or disease problems. They are susceptible to root rot if they are overwatered, and they are susceptible to a tea scale. Camellias are in the tea family, and there's a scale insect that can get on them. Typically, if you put one up in a corner somewhere and it doesn't get any air movement at all on it, that seems to be where they're more susceptible to that. But all in all, super, super easy industrial evergreen plants for the part shade or shade conditions that happen to bloom in the fall or late winter when nothing else is blooming. So we'll take a real quick look at some of these varieties. They're not quite in bloom yet because I'm here a little early. They're probably blooming a little more back toward the house in Raleigh at this point, but down here on the Gulf Coast, they need some cool nights to start opening flowers. Here are a couple of the October Magic series ones right here. This one's called October Magic Rose. And I've got a white one over here called Ivory that hasn't started opening up any flowers yet. Here's a bud on the end of that one right there that's about to open up, but it hasn't started showing any color. There's white and pink there. There's one called Ruby that is a super compact growing variety that I don't have out here right now. This is Yuletide, which is a red one that's been around forever. I moved a big one at my house. There's a video on my channel called Moving a Well-Established Shrub or something like that, but I moved a 6-foot-tall Yuletide camellia in that video. Yuletide's been the one that everybody's always bought because it's red near Christmas time. I think that October Magic Ruby, because it has that more traditional double flower, will make some inroads into Yuletide sales over time. It's a really, really nice plant. It's a very compact growing one as well. This is Alabama Beauty. This is kind of a blooming machine. It's absolutely loaded with buds. I saw them in a few places. I had it sitting right here and the open flowers dropped off. New ones are opening up pretty much every day. This is a kind of a vigorous growing camellia. Camellias are just notoriously slow growing. You can see the growth on this one back here. You know, it's grown maybe 6-7 inches this entire year. That's all the growth on this thing, and for whatever reason this Alabama Beauty's grown over a foot, and I've seen as much as 2 feet of growth on this plant. It's kind of interesting how fast it actually grows. Here's Shishi right here. This is a very popular, probably one of the most compact, low growing Camellias sasanquas. You can see the growth is going like this. It grows outward. Very interesting growth habit on Shishi Gashera, and there's a new white Shishi coming as well that Southern Living Plant Collection has. I didn't find any to pull, but it's just a white version of this Shishi. These are extremely popular. You can keep this variety, you know, between 3 and 4 feet in height. Here's one called Jessica's Ruffle that has kind of a semi-double pink right there. That, look how many flower buds this thing actually has on it here in October. It'll be blooming right up through Christmas. Here's that early wonder. This is a Camellia japonica. The rest of them I'm showing you are Camellia sasanquas. This is a early blooming Camellia japonica, which I think is going to end up, most of the blooms are going to end up happening in the fall rather than the late winter. And we can typically take some serious cold damage on our Camellia japonicas in the late winter up in zone 7. So I think this is going to offer us these big, giant, hard to put this in perspective, but Camellia japonica flowers are like this big, and you're seeing over here, you know, the flowers on these, you know, Camellia sasanquas are more like that. So very, very different. And these traditional Camellia japonicas, you know, put on a big show. But up in zone 7, we just continually get frost damage on them as they open up. Here's a new one called Diana, really nice full double white one right there. And that one's going to get, you know, probably about 8 feet tall. Most of these are going to get, you know, maintainable around 8 or 10 feet tall. That Shishi is maintainable much smaller than that. And Ruby that I talked about, that October Magic Ruby, is also maintainable much smaller than that. And here's one that's a pink, almost lavender color called Pink Stella. That's a very nice variety as well. So that's just 10 different Camellia sasanquas, well, 9 Camellia sasanquas and 1 Camellia japonica. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of varieties of camellias in all different shapes and size plants, and then flower colors, you know, pinks and reds and whites typically, and shades of those, and then you get variegated flowers with multiple color flowers. But Camellia sasanquas are definitely the most reliable blooming. They tend to bloom at a time when it's still mild outside and we're not getting extreme cold, and so the flower buds aren't really typically are not severely damaged, and they're blooming up in November and December, you know, when most of the things in your yard have given up and kind of gone to sleep, and they're just easy. You know, they just don't offer you any trouble at all. So thank you very much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for upcoming content.